Before kings ruled empires, before corporations ruled nations, before baseball teams disappointed fathers and sons alike, there was the hat. For thousands of years, human beings have placed meaning directly above their own heads. Protection, authority, fashion, status, rebellion, civilization itself can be tracked through hats. Today, we begin at the very dawn of the human story. The first hats were not fashion, they were survival. Long before luxury brands and sports teams, human beings simply wished to avoid freezing to death. In the deep history of our species, even our art reflected this need. Some anthropologists believe the Venus of Willendorf depicts a sophisticated woven cap, suggesting millinery is as old as our first statues. But very quickly, something changed. In ancient Egypt, hats became power. The Shent crown and the blue and gold names were not mere clothing. They were symbols of divinity. Commoners were often forbidden from covering their heads at all. Hats also defined freedom. In Rome, the pileus, a simple felt cap, was given to enslaved people upon their manumission. It was the original liberty cap. To wear it was to announce to the world that you were no longer property. The richer the civilization, the more ridiculous the hats became. Humanity developed an interesting theory that taller hats meant greater importance, and somehow everyone agreed. Height became holiness, height became law, height became, well, everything. For centuries, if someone wore a strange hat, you were expected to obey them. During the Middle Ages, headwear was a mandatory social code. The seat of reason, the head, required a crown of status. The British judge wig remains one of humanity's boldest decisions. A civilization looked at powdered sheep hair and declared, yes, this inspires confidence. In Europe, hats became architecture. At one point, some hats became so enormous, women reportedly struggled to enter rooms. Civilization continued anyway. Then came the top hat. No hat represented wealth and the values of the industrial age more completely. The taller the hat, the richer the man appeared. This was not merely clothing. This was capitalism, placed directly onto the skull. For nearly a century, serious men wore top hats, and if you did not own one, society assumed you had failed somehow. But the bowler hat, the derby, bridged the gap. Designed for gamekeepers, it became the most popular hat in history, worn by bankers and laborers alike. It was the uniform of a world in transition. Military hats evolved differently. They were not simply decoration. They inspired fear, identified rank, and occasionally prevented death. Some helmets saved lives. Others mainly informed enemies where to shoot. Police hats followed a similar path. The purpose was simple: authority. If a man wore this hat, society assumed he knew what he was doing. History suggests this was sometimes optimistic. Not all hats belonged to kings and generals. The cowboy hat became something unusual. It became mythology. These hats were earned through labor and industry, not inherited by blood. The hard hat represented the physical building of the modern world. Danger, labor, and the pride of the working class compressed into a single protective shell. Then came perhaps the most successful hat in human history, the baseball cap. It escaped sports entirely to become identity itself. A man no longer needed to speak. The hat spoke for him. Cities, teams, politics, music, entire personalities compressed into fabric. It is the most democratic crown we have ever created. In the early 20th century, almost everyone wore hats daily. Then suddenly, they stopped. Cars made large hats inconvenient. Modern culture became informal. Society changed. Many blamed President Kennedy for killing hats. This was unfair. Humanity was already abandoning formal wear. Kennedy merely received the blame for a crime already committed. Today, hats mean something entirely different. They are no longer required, which perhaps makes them more powerful. They represent wealth, rebellion, fandom, or anonymity, all by choice. For thousands of years, human beings have announced themselves to the world without saying a single word. And through war, religion, fashion, sports, and empire, the hat endured.